Speaking of something epic that was national, we had a basketball game last night. Cricket, the men's college basketball championship, and stop me if you heard this before. Cricket over the last 2 seasons, UConn wins and UConn covers as they defeat Purdue 75-60. Now this was pretty close in the first half, and I was very, very upset with Purdue that they could only score 7 points in like the final 8 minutes of the first half because I had Purdue +4 and they lost by 6 in the first half. Listen, if I would have just trusted my gut yesterday, Cricket, and just stuck with my one and only bet instead of listening to a whole bunch of other people, I would have saved myself a lot of money yesterday. But UConn, historic run over the last 2 seasons. They are 12-0 straight up and ATS. They are back-to-back national champions. This puts them in historic levels. Arguably could be, up there with one of the greatest teams of all time in college basketball. And last season, they defeated their opponents by an average of 20 points per game. This year, they defeated their opponents by an average of 23 points per game. This was actually one of the closer games they played over the last 2 seasons, and it was a comfortable 15-point win over Purdue. So, Cricket, did you watch the game? How'd you feel about the game? Edey went off with 37 points. It looked like we were going to have a good back and forth after the first half, but UConn just kind of dominated and ran away. By the way, another thing I wanted to say, UConn, there was only one team this tournament that got over 60 points on UConn, and that was Alabama. How crazy is that?
Yeah, man, they've been one of the top offenses in the country all year long, but did this thing with defense right here. This game never felt like it was in doubt, bro. I know Purdue came out kind of back and forth early on, but it never really felt like it was in doubt. Dude, UConn has so much depth, bro. There's so many great players on that team. Every time I felt like they had a lot of guys that would get in foul trouble early. A couple fouls, two fouls, And every time they would just sub a new guy in there, and that guy was a freak talent too, man. Everybody out there on that court for UConn was impressive to me yesterday.
Well, we were talking about that yesterday. We're like, oh, if UConn gets in foul trouble, they usually only run 6 guys, maybe a 7th. Like, what are they going to do? We forget that the guys sitting behind them are very, very talented players as well, and they just stepped up and dominated. And that's another thing too about this run that they've been on. It's not just offensively; they've been doing this with defense. I mean, I would argue last night wasn't even close to their best game.
Not at all. Not at all.
They didn't look good last night. They just looked all right.
They just did what they had to do.
Get a 15-point win against the second best team in the country.
Yeah, just did what they had to do, man. Methodically whipped them boys right there. And, Edey had a good game. Edey played well in a big moment against a tough matchup with Klingon there. Klingon, to me, it's Klingon 7-3 and Edey 7-4. Klingon just looks more athletic to me, more dynamic around the basket and things like that. But Edey played well last night. I'll give credit where credit is.
Klingon was clinging on to Edey. He was clinging everywhere, man. That guy was stage 5 clinger,
He was a stage 5 clinger for sure, man. I was glad to see him let the boys play. I was glad to see that it didn't turn into a foul fest, a free throw shooting contest. I was glad to see that. But
all the people on the floor, did you see all the people falling over on the floor? There was some that were like, some people were getting hacked, and you're like, oh, that was probably should have been called. But no, they let the boys play.
Isn't it crazy how much more effort you see in a championship game versus any other game? Like these dudes just balls, like it's the last game they're ever going to play in their life. You got guys fall on their heads and, jumping over the top and everything else, man.
Oh, yeah. Purdue's dude, he was just like, I saw it was in the first half. I don't think anyone really noticed it, but when he went to go jump, the ball was going out of bounds behind the backboard, and he dove out there. But when he stepped out of bounds. So he was already out of bounds, and it wasn't even going to matter, but he dove into people.
That's why, man. Damn. Right there, man. your biggest game of your life, you're playing that thing like it's the last basketball game you're ever going to play. And I know I've hated on Zach Edey a lot. Still don't think he's going to be a great pro or anything like that. But last night, the guy showed up to play, man, had a big game. And they're right, Helport, all the guys around him, man, that's kind of been the formula to beating this Purdue team. You let Edey get his, and you just focus on taking the other guys out of their game plan, and that's what they did. It worked.
Well, Purdue didn't even try to shoot threes. Like, that was the only way they were going to win this game, and they didn't even try until, the last 10 minutes of the game when it was basically over.
And did you realize they were the number 2 3-point shooting team in the country? If I heard that right,
last night they weren't.
Not last night they were not. No,
I was looking at the stats and stuff. about it, like before the game started, and I was looking. I'm like, oh man, this is actually these teams are pretty close. Stats wise of like 3-point shooting and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, we might have one here. Well, do we do the cricket? Do we do the generic sports radio talk of is UConn? This is the most dominant team of all time, right? This is the best college basketball team we have ever seen, right? Cricket.
I don't get in those, man. I don't know. That's comparing apples and oranges, man. If we get it, I tell you what, I'll start talking about those when we invent the time machine and we can go back and watch them play each other.
I'll say this confidently. This is the most dominant run by a team that I have seen in my lifetime. I will say that.
I don't remember. We saw the 06, 07 Gators go back to back, but they not even them had as run a dominant as this. There was actually a lot of bumps in that road. If you ever watched that 30 for 30 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of bumps in that road for the Gators, man. I didn't see a lot of bumps in this road for the Huskies.
No, at one point, I mean, they were up 30 on every single team they played. They went on a 30-0 run in the Elite Eight.
Against another team that had been Illinois won the Big Ten championship, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Went on a 30-0 run against the Big Ten champions.
Well, that's why I didn't buy a ticket on UConn at like 2-1 before the tournament started. I didn't buy a ticket on them because they had the FCC champ, they had the Big 12 champ, and the Big 10 champ in their region. And I'm like, what are we doing? You're supposed to be the number 1 seed, the defending champion, and they're going to throw all these guys. Granted, all those teams, like, I mean, some of them weren't expected to win their conference, but still, they still did it, right? They still did it. They're still a good squad.
Bro, you could have put the Charlotte Hornets and the Detroit Pistons in this bracket, and UConn would have still came out of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was insane.
I hate it when people talk to me about a NFL team, like the worst NFL team playing the best college team. I don't think that's possible. I mean, I think the worst NFL team would destroy the best college team. In basketball, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure this UConn
I disagree. I disagree. I think the worst NBA team would destroy this UConn team just because when we've talked about it, the NBA guys,
it's different.
They just don't miss.
Yeah,
and those guys would just rain threes on UConn, and if you were saying, hey, you couldn't shoot threes, you have to like drive in or take mid-range jump shots, I'd be like, oh, UConn has a chance because they got a 7-2 guy out there, right? They've got a chance. But those guys would just be like, okay, cool, we're just gonna rain these threes on you.
Yeah. Did I not say the Pistons, Super James? I thought that's what I said. I tried to think of the two worst teams. You're probably right, Will. It's a different game, man. And the court with the different dimensions and stuff out there, different game. But I tell you what, it'd be a lot better to watch that football game with the worst NFL team against the best college team.
Well, do you know who was really happy that UConn won the national championship?
Who's that?
Mr. Dave Portnoy. $2.76 million he won. Ticket he placed a couple weeks ago.
What did he bet? How much is that?
$600,000 on them, and it turned into $2.76 million with an M.
Good win, bro. You know what I'm pissed off about, man? The one bet I lost last night, because y'all know I loaded down on them Huskies, man, every way I could. What a bunch of bums, though, man. I had them plus 850 to win by 17-20.
Ooh.
Yeah, give me one more bucket, man. Come on. Plus 850. I was like, bro, I've seen it too many times before where people are like, there's no, I'm like, they could totally stretch this game, win out by like 18-19. I was like, plus 850? I was like, I'm going to put a little sprinkle on it. Damn it, Bobby.
I want to get your opinion on this because I'm of the complete belief that this isn't real. That I'm not saying that this wager wasn't real, but I don't think Dave actually made money off of this. And that's because Barstool sponsored with DraftKings. And
they just print these tickets, man.
Yeah, I think I'm not that Dave can't afford this, not that Dave couldn't place this, but you had Big Cat that had a $10,000 ticket out there. But these guys are sponsored with DraftKings. I'm of the complete belief that they do what DraftKings wants them to do, and they post these kind of things because I'm sure DraftKings wanted people to bet UConn. Now, and that way they'd get other people to bet UConn, or they push people in a certain direction, or maybe this would keep people off of UConn because usually you see someone like Dave Portnoy, someone famous, throwing money at stuff like this and then be like, oh, that usually doesn't work out well, so I'm going to stay away from UConn. Either way, I think there's a partnership here.
Absolutely.
And I don't think Dave Portnoy is getting $2.7 million back from DraftKings today. I think this is all planned.
I would not be surprised if they let him put this ticket in where they have it, where they can track it or whatever, and then they wire that money right back to his account. And they're like, hey, if it hits, you don't win the money, but you're not risking anything either right here. But we want to be able to show the tickets and stuff just for good marketing.
I don't even think that. I think they do it themselves. DraftKings does all this stuff. They're like, hey, Dave, we need you to do this. We're going to place a ticket for you. Have 600,000. Like they put the money in there.
That's
right.
Probably
they
it.
Put them. Yeah. I guarantee you that's it.
I don't. I don't. It's always hard for me to fathom putting this much money on any bet anyway, especially the futures right here. But with somebody that's tied to a sponsorship to DraftKings, yeah, a little funny to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But either way, nice win. Looks cool. Good
morning, Patriot. Good morning,
God, I wanted to go off on this, and I think you're going to be just as upset as I am. Colin Cowherd says, I like everything about UConn. That was his tweet last night. I like everything about UConn. Guess when he said this, Cricket?
When he couldn't be wrong?
He said it when they're up 17 with under 10 minutes to play.
Can't stand him. He's a douchebag.
I said that's real easy to say, when they're up 17 with under. Yeah. You like UConn all of a sudden, huh, Colin?
Yeah, you great take. You're gonna make me.
It's like saying something so obvious. It's like me saying I too like Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I too like looking at Sydney Sweeney's breastises.
y'all bring up Colin Cowherd, man. That makes me have to get in my pocket for the tip jar and stuff. That guy's a dipshit.
Dude, I just saw this and I'm like, really? This is where we're at. Like, you can
that's everything about UConn. I hate Colin. I said that in January.
Yeah,
piece of shit. Hate that guy.
Oh man, I saw that and I was like, this is why people are tuning in the Sports Morning Special Shot. They want some honest opinion, not some bandwagon jumping in literally at the last few minutes of a game as they're about to be back-to-back national champs and they're up 17.
We told y'all 3 months ago they were head and shoulders above everybody, even Purdue. We said that I'll go back and find it. Don't think I won't if y'all need me to.
I remember because I had not been following. I did not appreciate how dominant UConn had been this season and last season. Last season, not so much because they were a 4 seed, but they put it together, for the run. This season, I tend to just want to fade, especially the defending champ. So I didn't pay much attention to it. But I remember asking you, I go, hey, Cricket, is UConn good enough to win this thing? And you were like, oh, yeah.
Tell you, bro, I see too much athleticism, too much chemistry together. They played a lot of basketball games together. They got a great coach that lets them play their style. And that guy, he talks shit to the players during the game as much as his own players do. I've seen him and Edie jawing back and forth with Edie walking back across the court and stuff. Hurley's the man, bro.
Yeah.
He ain't scared of it. But yeah, no, this team they just built different, bro.
And that'll wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, of the recap of the national championship. UConn, congratulations, back-to-back national champs, defeating Purdue 75-60. Let's get in. And Zach Edey with 37. Zach Edey also, it's just proved last night. Not going to be a good NBA player. He's going to be a nice body to throw out there. Good rotation guy.
I didn't need last night to tell me that. I didn't need last night to tell me that.
We know that, Cricket.
He just doesn't look athletic, man. He's a big body in there. When you put him with a bunch of other big bodies that actually have a lot of athleticism and coordination and talent, it's going to be a bad day for that guy. He may never make it out of the G League.
Let's catch up with the chat.